Another damaging defeat, wasn't it, at Villa Park on the Friday night football. They're crawling over the line for Champions League qualification, it seems. Another bad defeat, as I mentioned. Arne Slot, though, expects to be in charge of the club next season. But then, overnight, a thinly veiled parting shot from a certain Mohamed Salah. We can look at it now from the Sunday Telegraph. Now Salah throws Slot under bus in stinging post. And he talks about bringing back heavy metal football to Liverpool, Jackie. I wonder who he's talking about there. And that post has been liked by several Liverpool players. Arne Slot is very confident that he's going to be in charge next season. Do you share that confidence?
Well, yes, at the moment it does look that way, but Mo Salah's doing his best to try to make his life as difficult as possible, isn't he? They clearly don't see eye to eye. That's pretty clear from his rare moment of talking to the media midway through the season when he made his point clear, saying the club had thrown him under the bus, but Slot probably feels he's been thrown under the bus now. So Salah is an absolute god in the eyes of the supporters, and he's clearly playing on that to make sure that his manager is under even more pressure than usual. The fact that it's been liked by the players, of course, you know, how much of that is them themselves liking it? Who knows? And also, which elements of the post are they liking? They could be liking the fact that, yes, they're not playing the kind of football the fans deserve. You would like that. But then we're not playing heavy metal football, having a dig, saying, well, this guy's not Jurgen Klopp, is he? Are they liking that? We don't know. We could read so much into it. Really unhelpful for Slot. I think the supporters who adore Salah just want to give him the best send-off possible. Clearly, Slot would love to be able to say what's going on behind the scenes from his perspective. He's already said in an interview, I'd love to tell you what I really think, but I can't. As managers can't. So much more goes on behind the scenes when players are misbehaving.
I think they can.
Behaviour.
Well, just say it. He's called it on, though, hasn't he, Salah? I think this is the point. Listen, the classy thing to do is just to say nothing. But I think Slot, for his own well-being and to defend his club, needs to come out and say what he really thinks about Mo Salah now.
He's not going to now. He's going to have this final send-off. He's not going to go, he's really unprofessional and he's been bang out of order.
He's called it on, hasn't he?
Well,
he's called it on. I mean, that's war. It's a declaration of war, isn't it?
Well, that's what Mo Salah's been really clever here, because he knows that he has the fans on his side. The majority of fans are on his side. He's a club legend. He's won everything at Liverpool. And while there still remains a respect for Arne Slot, I think that's diminishing. That a lot of the fans no longer have faith in Arne Slot. His football, the results.
He's going to come out fighting, then, isn't he?
He has, yeah. But I think in that scenario next week that Salah's final game, it's a losing battle for Slot, isn't it? It's almost Salah's called it on to say, right, I'm going to have the mosaic on the Kop next week. I'm going to have the big send-off. Dare you drop me? Dare you not play me in my send-off? And I'm sure Arne Slot would love not to play him.
I'd drop him.
I think what Salah's done here, he's done exactly what Cristiano Ronaldo did at Man United when he was trying to force his way out. He took on Erik ten Hag and made some really negative comments. That was the Piers Morgan interview. Yeah. And he ended up leaving the club. And that did taint his reputation at Man United. It still does. I mean, Man United fans no longer sing his name. I don't think we're at that stage with Mo Salah yet, but he's got to be careful. He's getting there because he's disrespecting the manager, so he's disrespecting the club in many ways. And ultimately, Mo Salah hasn't performed this season, so he's earned the right in the past, but he's not earned the right this season.
He said in that post, he said the bare minimum is Champions League, and I'll do everything I can to ensure that happens.
Well, fair enough, but he's not scored the goals or put in the performances this season that merited that. And I think obviously
a massive pay rise, yeah.
Yeah, he's had everything in his favour. So Mo Salah could have done more this season to help Arne Slot, to help his team. And also, he talks about heavy metal football. He's not been playing that this season. He's not been playing it for a while because he doesn't run. He doesn't put the work in defensively that Jurgen Klopp would have demanded. So if he was playing in Jurgen Klopp's side right now, he'd have been dropped by Jurgen Klopp.
By the way, Jurgen Klopp said he stopped playing heavy metal football anyway, didn't he? He wanted more. He said he couldn't carry on playing like that. He changed his style. He didn't even like the phrase heavy metal football at the end, did he? I mean, he wasn't something that he really bought into either by the end. I think it's a really, really cheap shot. I think it's really unfair. If I'm the club, I'd double down now. If I had any doubts about sacking Arne Slot, he's definitely staying.
But I think it's almost like Salah wants to take him down with him.
Of course he does. That's why he tried to throw under the bus. He tried to throw Slot under the bus with that mix zone stuff against Leeds. Yeah. This is his second bite at it, isn't it? And it's like the timing stinks, and I think it's really making it all about himself. And I think if you are the player that you should be and have been for Liverpool, you show a little more class than that. And I think that if you're Liverpool as a club, if you had any doubts about Slot, they've gone now.
What about all the other players who have liked this post? Because
yes, that's an issue. That's an issue, and I'd speak to them about it. I say, I would actually sit them down and speak to them about it. What is it about this post that you like? Tell me. Is it just the fact that you should be playing better, or is it against the manager? And I would say to them, the manager is here to stay, get on with it.
It's not a very Liverpool way to do things either. I mean, some clubs have a way of doing things, and Liverpool tend to keep things under wraps a little bit more in-house. You know, other clubs might have a bit more noise around them, and Liverpool have different kinds of noise, but in terms of respecting the club and remembering who you play for, Liverpool are, you know, one of the biggest clubs in the world, and they're an institution in many ways, and Salah's not behaving like a Liverpool player.
Just picking up on that, Sam Wallace's piece in the Sunday Telegraph, Jackie, can Slot survive? If it's up to Liverpool's owners, he'll stay on, and he says if Slot does survive and prosper, it will be a watershed moment in English football when an ownership faced down its support and was proved right. It will be a race against time, however, because if Liverpool supporters choose to make Slot's position untenable, they, like all fans, have that power.
Yeah, I mean, they are a very powerful fan base, it has to be said. But as Jason just said, I think it does make it more likely that he'll stay. They've probably made up their minds anyway. It has been a nightmare season. Well, nightmare season, they're about to qualify for the Champions League, but compared to what they expected after winning the league with the manager in his first season, after then investing so heavily in a window we all thought was fantastic, in fairness, at the time. There have been so many mitigating circumstances since, so many reasons that suggest he deserves another season. But then again, if you're a supporter who's going every week and watching that Villa performance the other night, you're thinking, holy moly, this is a million miles away from what it should be. So on paper, you think, absolutely back him. There's so many circumstances, injuries, that horrendous situation with Diogo Jota, which is unquantifiable in its effect on the players this season. He has earned another season, but at the same time, the supporters are absolutely right when they say, what are we looking forward to here? What are we building here? So it's a huge summer. If he does stay, I think he will. Huge summer in terms of rebuilding and making sure they have the right players in place and the right mentality to play the football they need.
Jason, Mark alluded to it there about how Liverpool and their fans approach their manager and how they respect their manager. It's very, very rare that they boo or go against their manager. We have seen signs of that so far this season. And Arne Slot's response, as Sam Wallace alludes to in his piece, is let's see what happens in the summer, because that's when I'm going to get my recruitment, and then it's going to be next season you'll see what Liverpool are all about. That's going to even add even more pressure and intensity to Arne Slot, isn't it? Because if it doesn't go right in the first couple of months of that season, the pressure is instant. It's almost like they're going to start now. The league's long forgotten now. We're judging you on what happened this season, so you better get this right straight away, or it's time to go.
I think there were a number of factors. I think I'd love to know last summer who was actually controlling all the recruitment, whether it was Arne Slot getting the players he wanted, or whether or not it was Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes getting largely the players they wanted. It seemed like it was a moment to move on from the Jurgen Klopp team, and I think that was a club decision. I don't think it was necessarily just the manager's thing. I think he wanted to do it as well, but I think it was a club decision. So there's a collective responsibility for that.
So has there not been enough scrutiny on the recruitment team, do you not think?
No, not at all, no. And I think that's always the problem with English football. We always blame the manager.
Yeah.
We blame the manager for everything. We laud them, but we blame them, and they're always the focus. It's always about them because they're the ones we can get rid of quite easily.
And they do the press conferences.
And they do the press conference. They're the spokesman for every single issue. And we've talked about this a lot before.
We fall into that because 5 minutes ago you praised Jason Wilcox from Man United's window because when it's a good window, the sporting directors get the praise. When it's a bad window, the managers get the blame. Now, Arne Slot's fault.
No, I also criticised them in the past because obviously I didn't think they should have kept hold of Eric Ten Hag, and I don't think the decisions they made in the past have been good either. So,
but if it's a bad window, it tends to fall on the manager. I mean, generally. And Arne Slot, it wasn't his fault that Alexander Isak didn't train properly last summer.
Or they didn't sign Mark Gay.
Exactly. So that was not on Slot. He has to manage what the situation is presented to him, but he's had a lot of issues that were beyond his control. But ultimately, the Liverpool fans aren't happy with his style of football, and that is a bridge that I don't see how he can get over, because unless he changes the way that he plays, the Liverpool fans aren't going to be happy. They're still yearning for Jurgen Klopp, and that'll go on forever, won't it? Until they start dominating again.
When was the last time a manager followed a manager as influential, as powerful, as iconic as Jurgen Klopp was? Obviously, we've seen it at Manchester United and Arsenal, and won the league. It just doesn't happen.
Slot did it.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Slott's done it. He won the league.
It's extraordinary. They've lost 5 more Premier League games than Bournemouth this season. 5 more going into the final week of the campaign, and it's extraordinary. But it does look as though he's going to stay, doesn't it? But I think we all want to see what happens in the summer. We all want to see who leaves, the recruitment, the players, can they come in and fill the gaps? Because defensively, they've been shambolic. And this has been really alarming to watch a Liverpool side. this defensively tame and relying on individual brilliance, the likes of Szoboszlai and Ekitike when he was fit was fantastic. But I think we want to see Isak with a full pre-season. We want to see the new signings coming in, plugging the gaps that have been clearly wanting this season. And also, the fact they've had, young Kerkez coming in and Robertson will be moving on. And the fact that Trent Alexander-Arnold left, the fact Luis Diaz we haven't mentioned yet, it was absolutely outstanding and has been for Bayern Munich. And the massive drop-off
didn't
with
sell
Salah.
Luis Diaz. Luis Diaz wanted to go. The club sold him. Trent Alexander-Arnold, he didn't necessarily want Trent Alexander-Arnold to go either. So lots of things have happened that are outside of Slot's control. And I think Liverpool, they are doing this, by the way, are probably stepping back and thinking, let's look at all the reasons why we hired him in the first place. The one that Mark raises is right, though, the style. Now, they knew his style of football, so they knew what they were getting into. So if they're asking him to change his style of football, that's again, did the club do the right decision there? So that is one issue. But everything else, they've got to look at and think of what he achieved and why they hired him in the first place. This season has not been good enough, but last season was outstanding. So let's balance those two seasons out. Therefore, you earn the right to go into the third season, in my opinion.
And he's only got a year left on his contract, so they'll probably say, let's see. And also now Xabi Alonso's gone, it's taken that kind of...
he would accept that as well.
The dangling carrot that was there that supporters were kind of
And Mo Salah gone as well won't be a problem because he's obviously not a good presence in the dressing room now. He clearly isn't. And he's not a decent presence on the pitch because he's not delivering. So
you're welcome
he's
back
a problem
to
that will
Old
be
Trafford.
taken away.
I'm joined by our very own Gary Neville. Gary, it's been a long season. We've been pitchside at many stadiums covering United this season. How are you feeling last home game of the season?
I'm feeling good. We've got Manchester United into the top four, haven't we? Between us. It feels like we've been here, I don't know, 100 times on the side of this touchline. But yeah, finally, the last game of the season, it's here. Manchester United in a very comfortable position in terms of obviously Champions League places and third. So yeah, it's been an up and down season. It's been sort of a toil. Obviously, losing a manager is never good. But overall, the way in which Michael Carrick has got the very best out of these players, and the players have responded. I think the fans have responded in this last couple of months, and hopefully today, Manchester United can finish on a high.
Talking about Michael Carrick, could be today. It sounds very likely that he'll be announced contract extension to continue as head coach. He'll have a probably moment after the match where he addresses the crowd. That could be really powerful for him. So what have you made of what he and his backroom staff have achieved since January?
They've done a fantastic job. I think from the very first minute, the games against obviously Manchester City and Arsenal in those first two games were absolutely astounding, really, the turnaround. I just don't know how it went from being so low in that sort of period before Michael came into the levels that they got to in those two matches, and then since then maybe not reached the highs of those two, but that would have been difficult anyway, but just being very consistent, getting over the line in games where they haven't played well, been a lot more together, a lot more energy. Bruno obviously the star of the season and sort of been the standout player, and maybe talk about him in a minute. But yeah, Michael Carrick stabilised the club, I think, on and off the pitch. I think on the pitch with the players, they're obviously a lot more comfortable in the system and the way in which they're being sort of coached. But off the pitch as well, the fans are obviously a lot happier. That comes with results, but also I think just generally they know Michael, they trust him, they respect him, and obviously I think just generally in the sort of staff of the club as well. It's been a turbulent couple of years, and I think it's probably the best period the club's been in since Michael came in, and he deserves a lot of credit for that.
Gary, it feels like sometimes maybe some of the fans today will feel like a lot of optimism going into the summer, but then equally maybe they've been here before under, say, Erik ten Hag, or maybe even after Ruben a little bit, going into this season. So what does Michael really have to focus on in the summer in the club to make sure that they can continue momentum next season?
Look, he's a realist. He's seen what excellent looks like at this club, and he's obviously seen in this last few months that a team have done well for him, but he'll realise that the hard work and challenge really does start now today. After this game, obviously Manchester United secure their third place. They've got Champions League football. In fact, it probably started a couple of weeks ago. I think he was talking a couple of weeks ago in the press conferences about contributing towards the recruitment plans for next season, but the minute that he gets the job is when it really does start for Michael. I mean, he's done a fantastic job as almost like a caretaker, interim, but now, permanent manager, it comes with a different level of pressure, a different level of expectation, and Manchester United need a lot of players. Let's be really clear. I don't think Michael will be fooled by that. I don't think any United fan will be fooled by that. I think they'll realise there's a nucleus of probably 5 or 6 that you can build around, but beyond that there needs to be some additions that take the quality up and the stability and the resilience of the squad. I mean, if you get 2 or 3 injuries in different positions, it falls apart quite quickly. So Manchester United with the Champions League next season and all those games midweek are going to need to really support Michael in the summer, and I'm sure that's what their aim is.
Someone they're going to have to replace is Casemiro, who again will get a moment before and after the match today. Just what have you made of his time, 4 years at the club, Gary? But then also, it's quite amazing to see how much it's meant to him to play for this club when you consider he won everything at Real Madrid. But it seems he has a very special connection with this club.
I mean, what you do see in the last 6 months in particular is what a player he must have been 7 or 8 years ago. I mean, we know because we watched him win Champions Leagues, but that's the one thing that I think, he's an animal at times on that pitch. You see him sometimes obviously heading it under his own bar, then the next minute you'll see him heading it in the back of the net at the other end. He's a force of nature, a massive personality. He lost his way partway through his sort of 4 years here at Manchester United. It was a massive fee and a massive salary. I do think it is the right time for him to leave. I think sometimes you get a performance level like we've had in the last few months when there's that freedom of leaving, and it's a sort of like a relief sometimes that he knows he's retiring, he knows he's leaving, he can enjoy the crowd, they can enjoy him. But yeah, he'll get a great reception today. He'll get a great sort of what will be send off at the end of the match. I'm sure a lot of it will be about him. But Manchester United need to build. They need to build with younger versions of Casemiro. If they can get Casemiro back in the summer, but a 24-year-old Casemiro with a different name, then that would be an incredible signing.
I mean, we should touch on Nottingham Forest, but I don't think they'll enjoy me asking about him. Elliot Anderson is someone that has been heavily linked as a potential replacement or someone to come into that midfield next year. How impressed have you been by his season for Nottingham Forest as well as England? But also, how much do you think he'll be desired by Manchester United and Manchester City this summer too?
I think the England performances are telling. People might think that he's playing sometimes in games that aren't as important against opposition that sometimes is a little bit inferior. But when you go and train with England, when you go and play with England, you're around the best players in the country. In England, they've got some fantastic players who've achieved great positions in tournaments over the last 6, 7, 8 years, and he would get found out very quickly if he couldn't sort of handle it with that calibre of player. And the England performances for me were most telling. Yeah, of course he's very good for Nottingham Forest, but the way in which I think he breaks up play, the way in which he reads the game, the way in which he accepts the ball, I think he passes forward. And I've said this I don't know how many times, the amount of midfield players who are happy to pass sideways and backwards, he does stick it through the lines and punch it
Bruno
into
Fernandes, we've talked about.
Yeah, Bruno Fernandes is an exceptional player, and he has that ability to always want to see the furthest forward pass. Midfield players out here at United, you will get absolutely pulled apart by this crowd if you're passing sideways and backwards all the time. They want players to look forward, think positively, and I think he has that about him, but also does the other side of the game as well. Manchester United won't be the only shop in town for him. There'll be another number of other clubs that want to take him in. So it'll be a fight to get him. But I think he would be a good signing for United.
And just finally, Gary, some breaking news in the last hour or so. Chelsea confirming Xabi Alonso as their manager, not head coach. Very interestingly, whatever you want to look into that verbatim as you like, feels like he might even have more power.
I didn't realise that they've named him manager, have they?
Yeah.
Well, they need someone to manage the club. I've said before that it's a club they've got a lot of inexperience on the pitch and off the pitch, and I think he's probably said, if I'm coming, I'm taking over, I'm not going to let other people determine my outcome in terms of recruitment, managing the medical side, managing sort of all the other things that sort of what would be happening in a football club. It seems to me that with that, you're right, I think it is quite telling. I've just heard that for the first time, but it's like they're handing him the keys to the safe and saying, go on.
And maybe accepting that they've not got things wrong, but they need to change going forward.
Well, they haven't got
maybe
things right, have they? I mean, it's obvious we don't even need to debate that really, but not through the want of trying. I mean, every football club owner is desperate to try and win. What I would say is, they've made a mess of it, obviously, but the fact of the matter is they've put a lot of money in. No owner wants to put money into a football club and say, go on, let's fail, let's not win matches, let's sign players that don't succeed. So there is an element of every owner wants to succeed and wants to win, but they haven't done it correctly. They haven't succeeded in what they've tried to do. They have tried to disrupt the system with these long contracts and sort of young players. Not just signing young players, that's not a tactic that's not happened before, but the amount of players they've signed that are young and the amount of players they've signed on these long contracts, it just seemed a little bit it's a strategy that's not gone well for them, and they've obviously given Xabi Alonso his head. It'll be really interesting to see what happens. It's a great story for the start of next season for the Premier League. We need great managers. We need managers who, to be fair, are promising as well, and he's one of them. He falls in between both. He's done a great job, obviously, at Bayer Leverkusen before. So I thought he might go to Liverpool. And with Mo Salah's comments yesterday...
What did you make of them? Come on, tell us, Gary. What does that say about...
He's pulled the pin out of a grenade there, hasn't he, and just thrown it in the middle of the room. I mean, he's on his way out of the room, by the way. All's not happy over there. That's... You can never... Look, it's not great. If he was a Manchester United player, I'd be fuming.
Yeah.
But what you can never do with this type of character and this type of personality and this stature of player is keep them quiet. Yeah. If they've got something to say, they're going to say it, and they're going to say it at the point where maybe you don't want to hear it. And like I say, that's what he's done. He's just literally, that was a telling comment.
What's Slot thinking, do you think?
Pardon?
What's Slot thinking?
Arne Slot will not welcome that whatsoever. But I think he'll just want to get to the end of the season, Arne Slot, obviously, and get out of there and get everybody out of there that's not going to be there next season and try and build. Looks like with Liverpool, they are going to. I think the signing of Xabi Alonso this morning did tell me that I think Liverpool are going to keep their manager next season, which I'm happy about, because I think I'm not happy about for any other reason. I genuinely think that a manager who's won the league 12 months ago deserves an opportunity to get it right, having had a sort of what would be more challenging season this time, but he's still in the Champions League, and it's for Liverpool to worry about their own problems. I don't think they need Gary Neville telling them what to do, but it was a telling comment from Mo Salah and something that won't be helpful.
Well, Gary, it feels like we're ending the season. I know we still have one more game to go.
Well done. But have you enjoyed this season, Dan?
I've very much enjoyed it. Have you enjoyed it?
I have enjoyed it. Go on, tell us what are your highs and lows? Go on, I can interview you for a couple of minutes.
I think the Monday night footballs we shared in December were pretty low, I think. Talking about those first, I think the Everton at home, that was pretty low,
Bournemouth,
wasn't it?
West Ham.
Wolves.
Wolves.
All of those.
I forgot about Wolves. Wolves was the end, wasn't it?
Wolves
was the end of time. I thought we weren't going to cover a game again after Wolves.
Yeah, that was pretty horrendous. But you know what I have to say? It was probably a highlight. Interviewed Amad Diallo last week and felt very emotional. I showed him a video of Tony Mowbray giving him a tribute and saying how much he loved him at Sunderland, and you could tell Ahmad really felt that. Maybe he's not in the best of confidence at the moment, best of form, but just lovely to see a footballer show a bit of emotion, isn't it? And
it is.
Behind all of that.
It is.
But highlight so far?
Been interviewed by you all those times this season.
Gary.
Do you know something? This guy is a good guy, and he's someone who I enjoy working with, someone who, to be fair, asks very good questions. He always has a smile on his face, as miserable as I am at times, so well done to you.
Thank you very much, Gary.
Well done.
Thierry Henry has sent a strong message to Mikel Arteta ahead of Arsenal's massive Premier League clash against Manchester City, and he didn't hold back. The Arsenal legend warned that talk is cheap unless it's backed up on the pitch, especially with such a defining test coming up this weekend. While the Gunners secured their place in the Champions League semi-finals after goalless draw against Sporting CP at the Emirates, Henry made it clear that the performance simply wasn't good enough. Yes, Arsenal got the job done, thanks to their 1-0 win in Lisbon, but managing just one shot on target at home raised serious concerns. And against a team like Manchester City, Henry believes that level just won't cut it. Now, all eyes turn to the Etihad Stadium, where Arsenal face the league leaders in what could be a title-defining showdown. Arteta's side currently holds a 6-point advantage, but City still have a game in hand, and recently beat Arsenal 2-0 in the Carabao Cup final. The stakes couldn't be higher. "I want to see that fire at the Etihad," Henry said on CBS Sports. "It's easy to talk, but go there, against Manchester City, and show what you're made of." Henry made it clear that while he believes in Arteta and the direction of the team, belief alone isn't enough. "I believe in what I see, I believe in him, in that fire. But when you say things like that, you have to deliver. And I didn't see it tonight." Despite his criticism, Henry acknowledged the significance of reaching the Champions League semi-finals, something that doesn't come around often. "We're through, and I'm very happy. A semi-final, it's huge. I never won it, but I did win the league. Now go to Manchester City and win. That's what I want to see. I believe in Mikel, yes, but show it." When asked how Arsenal should approach the game, Henry was blunt. "Not like tonight. Not like against Bournemouth, or Brighton away, or what I've seen at times this season." And when questioned whether the performance against Sporting would be enough to beat City, Henry laughed. "The Manchester City I've seen recently? They've won 4 in a row, and even Liverpool were in the mix. It could have been more." Still, Henry remains hopeful. In fact, he's been consistent in his belief since the start of the season. "I truly believe we can win the league this year. This is our biggest opportunity to prove, as a team, that we are capable." But for him, it all comes down to action, not words. "I'm sitting here in the studio, there's nothing I can do. But I've heard fire. Now I want to see that fire at the Etihad. One moment that stood out to Henry was Declan Rice's reaction at full time. Look at his face. Go back and watch it. A lot of players were smiling, but his expression. I don't know. Maybe I need to talk to him to understand what he was thinking. This is a guy who just reached a Champions League semi-final. Henry made it clear, there's no negativity in celebrating the achievement, but expectations must remain high. This is huge. Congratulations. It doesn't happen often in our history, so of course I'm happy. But against City, I want the team to win, not settle for a draw. That's it. Arsenal head into the clash with just one win in their last 5 matches across all competitions, including a 2-1 defeat to Bournemouth in their most recent Premier League outing, a reminder that improvement is urgently needed if they want to make a true statement against City. The pressure, therefore, is not just about one match, it's about momentum, identity, and belief at the most critical stage of the season. Inside the Arsenal camp, there is a clear understanding that performances must match ambition. Arteta, speaking after the draw with Sporting, admitted that his team has to improve a lot, particularly in the final third, where their lack of creativity and cutting edge was evident. While defensive discipline has been a strength, the inability to control games and create consistent chances is beginning to raise questions at exactly the wrong time. That concern is echoed by pundits and former players across England, many of whom agree with Henry's assessment. The general feeling is that Arsenal have shown resilience, but not the dominance expected of a team aiming to win both the Premier League and compete deep into the Champions League. Declan Rice, however, has taken a different stance. The midfielder has brushed off external criticism, insisting that the squad remains fully focused and unaffected by outside noise. Internally, there is still strong belief that this group has what it takes to deliver in decisive moments. Rice's mentality reflects a dressing room that is trying to stay grounded, even as scrutiny intensifies. The upcoming clash with Manchester City is now being framed as more than just a top-of-the-table encounter. It's a defining test of Arsenal's maturity. City, with their experience and relentless consistency, represent the benchmark. Pep Guardiola's side are known for stepping up in exactly these moments, and their recent run of form only reinforces the scale of the challenge. For Arsenal, the narrative is clear. Promise is no longer enough. After coming close in previous seasons, this is the point where they must prove they can handle pressure, respond to criticism, and deliver when it matters most. Supporters are divided. Some see this as the perfect opportunity to make a statement and silence doubters. Others share Henry's caution, worried that recent performances hint at vulnerabilities that City are more than capable of exploiting. What happens at the Etihad could shape the remainder of Arsenal's season. A strong performance, not just in result, but in attitude and intensity, would reinforce their title credentials and validate Arteta's project. A weak display, on the other hand, would only amplify doubts and hand momentum back to their closest rivals. In many ways, Henry's words have already done their job. They've sharpened the focus, raised the stakes, and set a clear expectation. Now, all that remains is for Arsenal to respond, not with words, but with a performance that proves they truly belong at the top.